Hi, and welcome again to True North with Anne Dawson. Most business owners are incredibly hardworking. They put in the hours, solve the problems, look after their clients, and do everything they can to keep their business moving forward. So when growth starts to feel harder than it should, the natural assumption is that they need more time, more people, or more resources. My guest today believes something very, very different. In fact, she believes that some of the biggest obstacles to growth are often hidden in plain sight. In the way that information is managed and in the way that work flows through a business. These are the things that business owners often learn to live with without fully realizing the impact that they can have on productivity, profitability, and future growth. Through her efficiency method, she helps businesses uncover what others miss, identify the friction that's hiding and holding them back, and create a structure that makes growth simpler, more sustainable, and far less stressful. So, how do you know if inefficiency is holding your business back? And, more to the point, what can you do about it? Well, joining me today in the True North studio is Julianne Adams. Julianne, it is great to have you in the studio. And I'd really like to start off with those two questions. If I'm watching today and, the business is kind of ticking along, what are some of the telltale signs that I need somebody like you in my life? And two, what's your background to make you the go-to person here?
Yes, good morning. Thank you. So I think the main thing that I can spot in business owners is that they feel busy, but actually they're not as productive as they could be. Or they're constantly being interrupted because this member of staff asks them for this document, somebody else asks them for something else, they're trying to find production orders. There's no visibility and control in what they're doing. And often things are not showing up in the profit and loss accounts. So small amounts of money trickle, but over a period of a year that can certainly add up. Soon mounts up. And so my background is I had a business at the turn of this century, and we had an £8 million turnover, 160 staff. And then in the big financial crash in 2007, I lost it. My children hadn't learnt the word budget, and I was single mum, and so I had to go out and find something. So I started my own consultancy.
And you've taken it from there, really. Now, I want to play, if I can, devil's advocate for, just a moment so that we can really kind of dig deep into what it is exactly you do, because there could be people at home sitting thinking, well, isn't this just a matter of common sense? If I'm busy but in all the wrong places, maybe I just need to get a bit more organised. Maybe I just need to get some systems and some files in order and catch up with my emails. Do I really need an efficiency method?
So that's a really common comment. And people will often think, I can just organise myself. But if they could, they would have done. And they don't often have the time. They don't know where to start. What is their priority? Is it their inboxes? Is it their order sheets? Is it their client management system? And so my role is to help them identify what their priorities are, where the biggest gaps are, and also including compliance risk, because especially companies that have grown organically from a small founder, perhaps they're up to 10, 15 people now, they don't necessarily know that they've got lots of compliance risks that they need to have in writing for due diligence, because if there's an incident, then the insurance companies can come along and go, you've got no evidence that you gave the training, or you've got no evidence that you did this, and so they can not be insured, and that can be a big financial gap.
So isn't that kind of an HR issue?
It can be HR, but it's also subcontractors, legal issues, cyber security. It's a huge range. It's not just people, it's not just HR.
So somebody who's watching this just now thinking, is my business suitable? What are the main, or are there main types of business that, or sizes of business that come to you? Who is your typical client, or typical customer?
So my typical client are management companies, service-based companies, ranging from sort of 5 to 50 people. Generally speaking, those types of companies need help most because they don't have the time or the knowledge in order to be able to assess themselves. I've also worked with very small startups with one person, 2 people, and they don't know what they don't know. And so it's again helping them to start off. After 30 years of being in business, I'm really enjoying almost acting as a mentor, but not actually doing the work, just spotting the obvious for them and helping them build their own business.
Well, this is your expertise, because if you've been doing that for 30 years at, you know, and it's such a high level, even aside of your own business, then, you know, it's second nature. It's like anything like that. Even if you're in nursing or you're in medicine, you know, you can't, it's almost like you can't avoid sitting in a natural environment, in a natural conversation, think, actually, if they did this or if they did that, things would be a lot better. So let's just take it back a second. So I'm sitting thinking, I don't really know if I've got a problem. How much more efficient could I be? Because as you say, we don't know what we don't know. What do you do for us? How do you find out if we've got an inefficiency problem that you can apply your efficiency method to?
So we start with just a 30-minute phone call, and I ask them some questions. You know, where are you storing all of your documents? Some of my clients have told me that they store them on Dropbox, they store them on Google Drive, they store them on OneDrive, they've got them on Apple Notes on their phones, they've got them on their laptops, and they're all over the place. And what they don't realise is how much time they and their staff waste looking for the document, seeing if it's the right document, seeing if it's the latest version. I've got clients who have found that their staff used old price lists, and that obviously had quite a financial impact. So, and that I've had more than once. Items like HR documents, like risk assessments, like you know, or client ordering forms as well. You know, by not having a document structure and a document system, such a lot of time and effort is wasted. There's research that has found that on average people in an office spend 1.8 hours a week each looking for a document, asking a colleague if it's the right document, or even asking the boss if he knows where the document is.
Well, maybe you can resonate with that. Maybe you're watching just now and you're thinking, do you know, that's exactly what happened yesterday, and maybe there was 3 or 4 people involved. So my goodness, that is going to be a lot of lost opportunity and a big waste on resources if you're spending that length of time looking for a document.
10 people, that's 18 hours a week, that's half a person's salary. And you work on the average salary that you might be paying your staff, how much money that costs you. And that's only on 10 people a year. And I can solve it with basically one filing system.
So why do people not, it sounds stating the obvious here, but why do people not get organised? Well, how does this actually occur that we get to this point?
So they've had a brilliant business idea, they've started a business, they've grown that business, they've got salespeople, they've got production people, but actually they haven't set back and think, okay, I need to join all of these up. And the business is growing faster than their system, and so now they've got gaps. And I have solicitors as clients, great legal system, but actually not very good document system. I've got accountants, you know, fantastic at what they do. However, their standard document system, where do they keep all of their own official records, their CPD training, their compliance risk registers, you know, all of these things. And it's almost like I can see a light bulb come on, because they go, oh yeah, you know, I've been meaning to do that for years, or I've been meaning to do that. And if you agree a structure with them and set out and explain how a good structure works, then, you know, that eases that overwhelm.
So is that where it begins then? Is it the same structure that would go for any business, or is it a bespoke structure to that individual business?
So I like to think of the service I provide as bespoke. So it's a tailored, practical solution, because I'm not, you know, going to be selling AI. I'm not going to say we need to wipe all of this, you need to start it all again, because that again causes a lot of...
Well, that can be really overwhelming.
Absolutely. So we work with what they've got, what is their biggest issues, their priorities, and then we slowly filter them down. And in the end, clients have told me that I've given them more structure and time that they can now work to grow their business better. They can go on holiday for 2 weeks and not worry that the business is going to collapse without them being constantly on the phone or on WhatsApp. And so that's really important for people to understand that, yes, their business is busy. However, having a system will actually make it more controlled and visible to them.
You know, that's when you mention the word busy there, we're always busy, aren't we? We're, you know, whether we're in business or not, it's I'm busy doing this and I'm busy doing that, and there's never enough hours in the day.
Yeah.
And if there are never enough hours in the day for your business, I mean, you tell me, Julianne, are you talking about people that are working at 10, 11 o'clock at night?
Absolutely.
They could potentially be having more time with their family, more time with their children.
Yeah.
It's not just about more time in the business growing.
Yeah.
It's a better life.
A better life, a work-life balance, totally. Because what tends to happen, especially in small businesses that are growing fast, is that the production manager suddenly doesn't know where to find the orders, or the accountant doesn't have the receipts he needs to be able to do the monthly accounts, because the person actually going and doing a work on site has left all the receipts somewhere, or they're in the bottom of his van or on his own iPad or phone. And so it's about coordinating everything so that the teams realise that they have to work in a team and not on their own, and that each part of that business has an equal structure. Business owners tend to become the oracle. So everyone goes to them and they want to see everything and know everything. And especially going forward, if they get to the point in their business that they want to sell, the first thing that they do is try and talk to their lawyer or their accountant. And their accountant then starts, going ding, and the money starts chinking up on their tills. And they go, yes, you need this, and you need this, and I want this piece of information. If I was to say to you, how quick could you find your official
You're
documents?
asking the wrong person.
but it's really common, common.
Yeah.
And so you need to have an exit plan, but you need the documents to show the evidence. That's much cheaper to have your own system than try and get the lawyers to reinvent something for you. So by having that system in place, 5 years, 10 years down the line, and you're building it and you're reviewing it, it's really important.
If someone's got a business idea, should they be looking at somebody like yourself now, or should they get up and running and then bring you in? In an ideal world, when would somebody come to you?
I think in an ideal world, it's probably when they've actually started the business. Right. Although, I have had clients in the past who I've helped with strategy and building that, they need to work out suppliers. Okay, well, are those suppliers legitimate? Are those suppliers compliant with EU or UK law? Are, all these questions which...
And this is all your area of expertise.
It is, yeah, because, they've got this brilliant idea, but they don't understand the bigger picture. And the bigger picture can sometimes be the thing that grabs them by the throat and kills it. So
I know we spoke beforehand, several times, and this kind of blew me away. I'm going to talk about some examples that people have. I mean, you've got to go through the email example again, because it was phenomenal. So tell us a little bit about what kind of business, first of all, and who was this person, and give us a bit of background here to the email scenario.
So they were a fitness organisation. They were running fitness classes all over the southwest, and they had an inbox. We initially were going to look at their documentation structure, and we're sharing a Zoom screen, and I could see her inbox had 8,063 unread emails, and I thought, oh my goodness me. And she was almost in tears, saying that she was so scared now to open it. It was just getting worse and worse and worse. And a lot of it is historical things that she'd signed up for, newsletters, and having a combined email address for accounts and admin and so on didn't really help. But after 2 one-hour sessions where we started going through them, looking at the structure, moving archive ones of 3 years into an archive folder, because I said, we're not going to delete them, because that would have also given her a lot of angst. We're going to put them in an archive folder, then if you need them in the future, you know where they are. But your inbox, we need to get it down to, at least less than 100 per the end of each week, if not less to 0. My own one is less to 0 every single day. I get through all of my emails. I'm a big follower of David Allen, Getting Things Done. And his famous line is, if you can do something in 2 minutes, do it. And it's a huge thing. Just by having an inbox folder called unsubscribe, and then when you get a newsletter in that you don't read anymore, just drag it into that. And then when you've got time, you just sit there and unsubscribe.
See, what you're describing there, that's me at home. Not necessarily with all my emails, but hopefully that will be getting sorted out soon. But with housework
Yeah.
and being organised at home. If it can take me less than 5 minutes to do it, then I will, wipe down the surfaces at the end of the night. I will do that. I'll put things back because that helps you sort out your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And psychologically, that's so important.
Calmer. Absolutely.
And yet, so many of us were kind of like, oh, this is in work mode now and we'll catch up eventually. And I don't know, maybe this is you as well. You've done what I've done. It's like, okay, right, there's X amount of emails. So I've read to there. So now I just know I don't need to look any further back. But you do. Yeah. And psychologically, what you just described about folders for subscriptions and archives for those kind of things, it just makes so much more sense.
It does. And then when you've got the right mentality and you're feeling calm, then you can just sit and delete the ones or read them on, go, yes, okay, I want to keep these. But it's about having the time as well, that you're not panicking, you're not going, oh, which is the urgent ones. So,
but it's almost like about making something manageable.
Yes.
It's like the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yes, exactly.
Gosh, a lot of this, when you see it, is common sense, but you've got to be at the point where there is a bit of overwhelm, where you're thinking, my time is wasted, spent either looking for something for myself, looking for something for somebody else. And if you are the backbone of the business, I would imagine, Julianne, and you're in that control thing and nothing can get past you, that is quite a responsibility because you've got all these people that you've employed, but the buck stops with you.
Yeah. Or it could also stop with someone who's been in your business for 10, 20 years. And I say to them, I say, okay, if that person left next week, what impact would that have on your business? I had a client who was the be-all and end-all to his business. He went skiing with his family, had an accident, dead. And his business actually went under because nobody else knew where anything was or how anything worked or who his clients were or when he last talked to them. And so it can be a big impact as well.
Just you saying that, it's almost like, people talk about that. If somebody passes away unexpectedly and they don't have everything in place, then everybody's got to find out documents and all. It's exactly the same thing for a business, isn't
absolutely,
it?
Totally. And more so because other people are reliant on that business for their, salary, for their mortgages, for their, getting up in the morning and going to work, enthusiasm. And so it's about understanding the whole picture of the business and not just sales. We need more sales. That's very important, but you also need to see the backbone as well.
You do. We definitely need the systems in place. And just following on from what Julianne has just said, if your best employee left tomorrow, where would that leave you? I mean, where would you be in the business? Would you have to take a month out, sometimes even longer? Would you need one person, two people to come in to help with that gap, finding, all the systems that perhaps they'd put in place, but now that they're no longer here, you have to somehow kind of muddle through. And this is where it's really useful to have somebody like yourself. So if that's the situation, what do you do? What does it look like? So I make the call and I have a chat with you, and we say, there's a problem here, Anne. What happens then?
So the next step in the process is to have what I have called your efficiency study.
I love this.
Or yes.
Yes.
A yes. So
very positive.
Very positive.
Your efficiency study. Yeah, love it.
Most of my clients start with a yes, and we take a much more in-depth look at the structure of the business. So we look at the organogram, which, like a map of the business, and then who are the key people, where could the bottlenecks be, where are the delays, where is it working really well? Because we won't look at those. If they have a really good client management system, then we won't focus on that. We'll focus on the inbox overwhelm, the time management and diaries, or the documentation system, or the risk management system. And so it's step by step. So as I say, it's really tailored and very practical. Yes, there are sometimes AI solutions, but actually AI can also be an issue on its own. And subscriptions.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
So, for example, I have a client who had 18 18 employees, and when we started mapping out all of their subscriptions, so all 18 were signed up to every single app and every single software program that they had, and we found that actually only 2 or 3 of them actually used them in full, and that was amounting to £15,000 a year that they weren't using. And they didn't know what the renewal terms were, they didn't know what the deadline dates were. So I helped them identify them all, and then we managed to whittle them down so that their subscription cost was much less. So having AI is great, it's a brilliant tool, it's getting better and better, but it's not necessarily the be all and end all for everybody.
So that yes method, so that comes after, I'm sitting at home, I'm thinking, actually, it's like a health check for your business. And when we actually consider it, you can do a health check. You can have a health check when you're healthy, just to confirm that everything's okay, that, we're seeing wellness and all of that these days. We don't need to wait till we're crawling around on our hands and knees with a big problem.
Absolutely.
So there's different ways that we can approach this. What has been... Tell us a few stories here. What has been, the absolute, not a nightmare for you, but where you've just kind of like thought, I don't even know how you're functioning. Somebody calls you, somebody wants to bring you in with this yes method. What does that look like? And how do you go about somebody's business that's a real mess?
So I have a property management client, and it's been established for 15 years. They've got 5 members of staff. They have 5 computers. None of them are wired together. They don't have any shared drive. They don't have any shared filing name system. So, if Bob goes on a holiday, then everyone has to wait till Bob comes back because they don't know where he put it and they don't know what he called it. And really inefficient in terms of time. But also, they didn't have a compliance risk register. They didn't have a legal register, they didn't have a subcontractor register. So a lot of the times I found that subcontractors were going out and doing jobs that they'd asked them, and they're sending in bills, but those bills then weren't being passed on and charged to the client who owned the property because there was a mismatch between what Bob did and what Sally did. And so, they were losing money without actually realising it, and they were running around really busy, and a couple of the staff were very stressed, and and I can see now, as you say, wellness is a big thing, and especially wellness employees, making happy staff. And it makes them more loyal if they're supported and they understand what the process is. They want to understand who's responsible for this work or that work. So having the responsibilities mapped out is also very key. Okay,
so if somebody's watching just now and thinking, but there must be lots of people that do this. What's the difference between coming to you and, to be honest, I wouldn't even know where to start looking. Why should they choose you? And what's your competition out there doing?
So competition really I don't really look at because I don't need to. But I think also the difference I have is I have 30 years experience of being in a business, running a business.
Is that a particular type of business, or is this?
It could be any type of business. Right. So in the 15 years, so I actually helped write a lot of standards. So I used to work in the environmental sector predominantly, and I helped write standards. And then I set up an auditing group, auditors who worked for me, and we went off and did audits, auditing the business as well as their environmental measurements and document control and downstream. But I've done over 800 audits. So I know good businesses from really bad businesses, and talking to my clients who initiated the sort of the visit, going, okay, really good, they've got this, they meet your sustainable goals, they meet your modern slavery goals, they meet your conflict mineral goals, all these things, because their clients above them demanded that they had them in the contract. So you have to do that downstream to actually analyse it, so you have to know the right questions. So in 15 years and 800 audits, I know the right questions, I know how to dig out the answers, and also to get the best out of the staff to help them feel improved. Because it's not just about the boss saying do this, it's about the staff actually feeling listened to, and so lots of different reasons, but 30 years of doing it, I think I've got a superpower of finding those gaps and helping those businesses to identify what the best solutions are for them, practical.
So really, if anybody is sitting there, it's like, do you want to go to maybe have some kind of auditing system that the company doesn't necessarily have, as Julianne is talking just now about 30 years experience, over 800 audits? Or would you rather go with somebody that is not just more than capable of really working out where the systems need changing, but also what I feel is there's a very human approach to what you're doing? Because I think a lot of people these days, even whether they're tech or they're not, just think, oh, isn't there a piece of software that can do that?
Or a book.
Or a book,
Yeah.
If you had time to read it,
Yeah.
if you weren't too busy, if you weren't so busy running through your emails trying to find the right document or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think this is so important. Let's talk about time frames though, because and cost as well, not necessarily exact figures, because that's like how long's a piece of string. But a lot of people might be thinking, I could really do with something like this, but are we talking in the thousands? How long is it going to take? You know, is it a question of, she's going to come and she's going to say, this is a real mess and, I'm going to need to shut the business down because I can't afford to fix it. What's the common experience, would you say?
So I think to give you some examples, so the lady with the inbox issue, we started with...
Remind us, at 300, you got it
down to in 2 1-hour sessions.
In 2 hours, down from 8,000 unopened emails.
Yeah. Down to less than 300, and she's got a lot better since then. And so that's a good example. So you're talking sort of in the early thousands, much lesser than lawyers would charge you. And I think also it's about the value that person feels. It's not just, I've paid this, I've got this, pretty looking document structure. It's about how they feel about it, how much control they've got, how much visibility. So clients have said to me that they feel a lot calmer, which is a part of my personality, I guess. It's not, I'm not there to dictate to them. I'm not there to tell them that they've got a silly system. Basically, businesses are not about a people problem, it's about a structure problem. And if you improve the structure, then you can almost instantaneously improve the well-being and improve the overwhelm and improve the chaos just by putting 1 or 2 things in, and then you work from there. So it's a tailored approach. So.
Yeah, and that's where we were talking about in the earlier on about that will in turn increase productivity. Yeah. But yet, very often, if people are, like I said in the introduction, people are thinking business is hard to come by. Talk us through the normal cycle that because people will relate to that watching. So I've got my business, 5 or 10 employees or whatever, and I'm thinking, God, business is tough right now. So talk us through what most businesses will do at that stage and then how you would do things differently. So
most businesses will think, okay, it's really tough, I'm going to have to let somebody go. But actually, that's not the problem. It's not the people problem. They might say, okay, so we're not selling this particular widget anymore. And so, okay, but why? Is it because the widget has become too expensive, because you're not looking at your suppliers, you've not gone out to tender, you've not got a proper system that takes you from the order right the way through to production, so you're getting more complaints or more returns, and so those things, can all be fed back. And it's not necessarily how much it costs them, but how much it can save. So you mentioned productivity, yes, that's one, but it's also the little tiny trickle off the bottom line of the profit and loss. All of those things can then be fed back into the business. And if the business owner isn't running around, trying to answer everybody and be the oracle, they can then put that time into growing the business, into planning a strategy, and to also, getting the visibility and control back.
And again, that could be you watching right now thinking, I spend most of my time running around like a headless chicken, but overseeing what everyone else is doing. And maybe you're thinking, is this a control problem? Because I don't trust them to do the job if I'm not there. And how can we get over that? Because if there's the correct structure and the correct systems, you can sit back a bit. I don't mean sit back and take it easy and don't do anything all day, but that alleviates a lot of the stress, does it not?
Absolutely, because a lot of the time, if a team or a person can't find the right document, in my experience, they have made up their own document. And so, they've used things like old price lists, which has a major financial impact on the company.
But how does that happen?
Because they don't know where to find the real one. And the boss might have not been in the office that day, or the person that knew it. And so they've used the one that they find. And then
so the boss could go on holiday for a fortnight and people could be selling things at the wrong prices because...
And it's actually happened. Yeah, I've got a client who found out exactly that by analysing, what the issue was. So that could impact the sales of their company. So they might be busy, but actually they're not making the money. And
maybe that's the way you identify that you perhaps need the likes of Julianne getting involved in your business with the efficiency method. Maybe the question to be asking yourself isn't how long does it take you to find a document, but perhaps it's when was the last time you had a holiday? And when was the last time you went away as a family? And if it's because the answer to that is a very, very long time ago, Anne, because I don't want to run the risk of leaving the business, that is probably a massive red flag to you need to have a conversation with this lady in order to find out how can we shore up your business so that a bank holiday weekend could stretch to a week without a disaster happening.
Exactly. And I think that's, again, a very common problem, especially for startups where the founder is still in the business, or perhaps the founder has a son or a daughter who's taking over and they want to run it slightly differently, but without upsetting the original owner. And it's about not saying you need to have all the software or the AI and yada, yada, yada. They need to have actually what they've got, but in a more accessible, more optimized and efficient system.
How often have you walked into a business and maybe, and again, this isn't to, for a guilt or a shame thing, but you've honestly walked into a business and thought, these guys are amazing. They're succeeding in spite of the fact that they've got no structure. But this cannot continue.
Yeah, and you can see it, and I can see it as an outside pair of eyes, which is again a key point, in that they get to the point where they don't realise how many plates they're spinning. And if one of those plates goes down, then it's like a pack of cards. They literally all fold. And so by having somebody come in and analyse how they're doing it. Is that the most efficient? If it is, fantastic. Let's not touch it. Let's carry on and do more of that. But also getting all of the team on board so that everyone is pulling together to actually help grow that business.
So this is something, again, for people watching, this isn't necessarily something that's done remotely. This is something that you would go into the business in order to get an accurate.
Yeah, so I've got 4 different layers after the yes. And so one is documentation, one is time management, diary control. The next one is client management and also forwarding and follow-ups on clients and making sure that clients are happy and that you're coming back to them for referrals, so you're not losing the business. And then I have a full operational reset where I would definitely need to go on site. I can walk around the site, I can spot health and safety issues, I can spot
depend
workflow.
On the type of the business, the size of the business?
Generally speaking, yes. A lot of things can be done remotely at times to suit both parties. But generally, if you have a production business, you're not necessarily going to know where the workflow is creating a bottleneck. My first business, I took us through Lean and Six Sigma. So that's about understanding production and workflow and also understanding the easiest ways to be efficient. And so I can help identify those without them having to go through the full Lean or Six Sigma
process. I've got to back up slightly here. I mean, this it just sounds like there'll be so many businesses out there that think, I need a Julianne in my life to sort this out, or to at least have a look, because surely it's got to be worth having a look to see, is there an area that I could increase productivity that could make, not just in terms of your P&L, but could actually make a difference to the quality of life of the staff members that are in your business, not least of which yourself. And I think you know, that's so important. But I want to, you know, just back up. It's like, how on earth did you get interested in all this? I mean, I can't imagine. I've said this to several people when they come into the studios. I look at sometimes what people do and I think, did you really grow up thinking, when I grow up, this is what I want to do? Or how did this actually all happen for you?
Not at all. As I was growing up, I wanted to be a nanny until I realised I actually didn't like other people's children.
Oh my goodness.
So I had to look at a different option. But I have a very lateral brain, so I can see things and see the links of it. And I think I've just trained my brain that way. And it is a niche, it is a superpower, as I said earlier, that having an outside pair of eyes looking at something does protect your staff, but also compliance risk. So as an example, I have a client who has a cleaning company, not particularly big, but they're looking to grow. We're now helping them to work into business clients as opposed to commercial clients, as opposed to domestic. But they had no list or method to renew their research into COSH. So COSH is about understanding the chemicals in each and every chemical, because they have to declare them to their staff.
So much.
They do, but those change. And manufacturers, they bought this product, you know, and this is the exact. They bought this product for years. However, the manufacturer had changed the formula 2 or 3 times and they hadn't kept up with it. They could have been sued.
How do you keep abreast of all of that? How is it possible for you to be ahead of the game on all of that? That's an awful lot to be thinking about.
It is, but that's why it's tailored to the business, because I can see what the current legislation is, what the current issues are, but I've been doing it for 30 years. And my business in the past was I worked with the European Commission and the UK government and standards bodies, international standard bodies. So it's about understanding, you know, if the standard says this, you know, where do you find that information? So I've got lots of knowledge of where to find it.
Yeah, I was going to say, so that's very much a go-to, isn't it? It's not necessarily knowing the back end of every business, of every industry, because it just sounds so impressive. But obviously, if you've got the right questions and the right places that you know where to go, I suppose it's like areas of law, or areas of any kind of industry.
Law, HR,
you just need to know where to look, so that if it is, I don't know, say a construction company that contacts you, then you need to double down on everything that needs to be up to speed there. Gosh, no 2 days being the same, Julianne.
But I love that. You know, it keeps my brain going, it keeps my brain ticking. And there is a lot of commonality between businesses. They just don't realise it. And so as long as you have that backbone, like legal registers, like HR registers, cyber registers. So cyber, for example, it's probably not Russian hackers that are going to have a go at your business. It might be actually the people in your business. So have you done training on how not to open a link on an email? You know, simple as that, but some people don't realise. You know, how have you done training on, you know, use of WhatsApp? Becoming very common, but actually it's much more hackable than people realise.
That's an area that's increasing dramatically now in terms of running your business. WhatsApp, you know, they've just, again, Meta have just come out with all sorts of new rules and new ways that WhatsApp are going to be operating, and give it 6 months, or I mean, it's already started, but give it 6 months, a year from now. So we really do need to be not just on the ball, making sure everything's safe. Talk to us a little bit about future proofing, because I would imagine this is not a one and done. I mean, you can deal with this at the moment, but it's like going to the doctors. It never means that you're never going to have to phone the doctor again. But we'll at least know, we'll at least get a health check now.
So you definitely, as a business, need policies in place. And so those policies need to be reviewed at least once a year, if not sooner. So does your business have a policy on password control? You know, are they using their mother's maiden name? You know, very easy to find out if you look in the right places.
Because it's suggested to you.
Absolutely. And, you know, or, you know, do they share passwords? If a colleague, you know, can't get into their computer, they share. Or, you know, how often do they renew them? So really simple things like about you have a policy as to what happens, how often you change it, not to share it. Policies on, you know, sort of grievances and, sort of harassment and bullying, on modern slavery, on using the right chemicals for the right solution. There's lots of different things, but they start at policies. And policies are relatively easy to start in a file. You then create a handbook for your employees, and then you train on it, and you have to continually train on it. You can't just say, I've trained you, sign at the bottom, and that's it. If an issue happened, your insurance company wants to know how often you train them. Did you give them a refresher training?
So you would advise on all of that as well?
And the how to do it, templates, all those types of things are very easy to set up.
So, typically, and this is very much how long's a piece of string out there, but somebody comes to you and says, yes, to your efficiency study. So they say a yes to that. They book the call, they have a chat with you. You are then going to work out what's needed.
Yes.
That's the yes element to that. What is the most common length of time you find it takes people to get kind of on top of things, to give people a little bit of reassurance that it's not like, oh, where is it? They're going to contact you and then 18 months down the road,
they're still doing it. Not at all. And that's why it's important to look at the priorities. What is the most or the biggest issue that's causing the biggest chaos or the biggest blockage or the biggest bottleneck? And often that starts with the documentation, because if you've got a good backbone, the rest kind of follows through. So it is very much how long's a piece of string. A company of 5 people would be very different to 50, because then you've got teams and you've got responsibilities. But by having that structure, that's much easier to manage. But if you've got a fairly simple business, if I take my accountant client, so their issue was about having all of their documents on multiple different platforms. And actually I discovered that actually they have ADHD. And for me, that's actually quite interesting, because I've now got 2 or 3 other clients who've admitted they've got that. And so it's like, oh, shiny toy, let's buy this. Oh, shiny toy. But actually, by pulling them back, they feel a lot better, because they need to be organised, but they needed someone just to show them how to do it. And that took probably 4 or 5 one-hour sessions via Zoom.
My goodness. It just shows you that it really does all start with that initial call. Because again, it's a 30-minute call. And you would ascertain within that 30 minutes, what types of questions can we be prepared to answer? What kind of things are you asking?
So if it was you, Anne, I would say initially, okay, so tell me about your document structure. Do you keep them in one place, or have you got them stored everywhere else? A bit like a magpie, they see a shiny toy and they stick it in this pot and that pot. And documentation is, as I would say 90% of where the initial wins are the problems, but wins can also happen, because they're relatively easy to fix. And then from there it would lead on. So it's difficult to say completely, because
it depends on the business.
It could be a veterinary practice, it could be solicitors, who you'd think be very organised, but actually they weren't. Small independent practice. I have clients who have cleaning companies, who have lettings companies, very different. A construction company. So
the needs are different, and
very
it would have to be. I'm just thinking. I'm a lot more organised now, but I can't really take credit for that. But one of the areas that I used to would be the email area. It could be something as simple as that. Maybe you've just started up a business, and I think you get encouraged because you see the business working. People are making inquiries. So it's like, I'll deal with that later, because it's a far better problem to have as a business owner. I'll deal with that later, rather than, I don't actually have any inquiries to organise. So, but that's how it compounds, surely. We let things go.
And it compounds very quickly. I've got one client, she has a sports massage therapy business, sole trader, and a lovely young lady. She's never really been told how to run a business. And so she's got a great client management system. But if someone cancelled the day before or on the day, she had no method of following that person up, going, okay, you cancelled, do you want to rebook? Here's my calendar, let's rebook. She also had no system to follow up people who dropped off. They had 1 or 2 sessions and then they were lost. And so by identifying them and actually having, a follow-up day, she didn't
get new systems in place.
Yeah, so her time management, so she did everything, or like you say, spur of the moment, I'm gonna do that, and then spur. But by time blocking, it really helped her to actually focus. So she spends 15 minutes each morning going through her emails, and then 15 minutes after her last session going through, okay, who didn't turn up, and sending them a message saying, can we rebook? So it's not a difficult thing to do. It's about knowing how to do it and what to do first.
And I think as well, just, talking about from my own perspective, getting swamped in admin, like, you've got a client coming in, that's great, but how much time are you spending onboarding them, creating maybe Zoom conversations, Zoom links for conversations, just the whole admin side of it. You could free yourself up to be, out there looking at prospective new business.
Absolutely.
If you had a system in place. So it's very, very important to be getting that structure.
I had a client who brought me their account system, and it was a cardboard box full of receipts and bits of paper. And that was their system. It had worked for them for 2 years. But of course now HMRC are bringing in new rules. So companies who have over 50,000 turnover from the 1st of January now have to log those and report them to HMRC using approved apps once every quarter. If you're under 50,000, you don't have to do it on the 1st of January, but it will come fairly quickly because they're trying to trace everybody, obviously, to get more tax paid. But it means having that system in place. So if you go to your accountant once a year with a cardboard box and your accountant goes, oh God, it's this client again, that's exactly who I help. So I work with accountants who refer me to their business clients.
Absolutely incredible. It really is. I just want to go back to the call, to the YES study, your efficiency study, and also just talk a little bit about, you've got an academy.
Yes.
So let's just, because can you believe it, the time goes by so quickly. Yes. But yeah, let's just talk about that.
About the academy first? Or?
Let's talk about the YES system, reminding us again just how, I just think that's fantastic. It's a big yes, and it will be a big yes, I would imagine, for so many people watching. Maybe it's you, maybe it's not you, and you just know someone and you think, yeah, they've started their business. All I hear about is, oh, I can't catch up with you at the weekend because we're working all the hours God sends. And it's just chaos. This is, it's getting rid of the chaos, really. And that starts with the phone call, which then moves on to the YES. So talk about the YES and then the academy.
So the YES is being set up to look at the structure, look at where are the biggest inefficiencies that the owner or the person I'm speaking to, it could be their team members, where do they think the inefficiency lies? Often team members will say, oh, well, the boss is the problem because he doesn't share anything, or we don't know where anything is, or and so it could be a range of things. So we look at the structure, the mapping of the business is key, about that workflow and where it has these gaps and these stops, and the compliance risks. So what is the impact on the business? That would be my first question. If this person didn't do this, or if this person left. And so that can take anywhere between 45 minutes to 90 minutes, really depends on the size of the business. And then they would get a structured report that sets out where I see where their inefficiencies may be, and solutions that I can help them work towards, or they can fix themselves. Some of them are very easy to fix. So that would be the first step.
And that's when they would get an idea of cost, etc.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yes, and so it may be that they need more help on, just the documentation, or just time management, or just on client management. And so, yes, I would tailor it from there. And then I also in their part of the packages is have a quarterly review or a monthly review, depending on how busy the company is.
And that's the academy part of it.
The academy is actually something slightly different. So I realised that actually,
because we haven't really spoken about this, have we?
No, I mean, there are numerous books on how to run a business, how to make $1 million in your business, and so on, but actually not how to run the business, the actual bones of it. And so the academy is set up in 12 modules, and it goes through what a good document system looks like, and how they do it, and where to find templates or how to write templates. It starts off with a scorecard. Where are you now? And then at the end of each module, okay, where do you think you might be if you put these into place?
Gosh, that sounds great.
So, and at the end they get a one-to-one with me, and we'll go through any other outstanding issues.
How long does it take? I mean, I suppose
it's
it
on
depends
demand.
on
It's so it's on
how much time they've got to dedicate to it.
It could be once a month.
Yeah.
Each session is about 60 to 90 minutes, depending on the topic.
Yeah.
And they can do it when they want.
Yeah, that
so
sounds great.
if they wake up really early in the morning, or they're a night bird, so it's all tailored.
Absolutely incredible. I could talk to you for the rest of the day quite easily. If you are sitting at the moment thinking, I'm in overwhelm with my business, I can never seem to find a document, or I can find quite a few things but nobody else can, and we need some kind of structure in place, or like I said earlier, how long has it been since you last took a holiday? All of these are signs that perhaps it'd be a good idea to have a chat with Julianne and really find out on that no obligation 30-minute call to really ascertain, is there an issue? Can she help you? And then take it from there. And if the answer to that is a big resounding yes, then you need to contact. You've got the details there with the website and everything. People can book a call. Julianne, thank you very, very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a pleasure having your company too. So look forward to the next True North with you.